Tell you how I ended up here, and this is like, I don't know how many times I've done this, none of which has been a problem, but there's an old saying you need to sort of keep in mind for life. Write this down. Ready? Write this down. No good deed goes unpunished. The first time posters were turned in, I was walking through before they actually had to be presented to someone, and there was nobody around except myself and the young lady who was in that time in charge of the program. And I guess I couldn't contain myself. I looked at some of the posters, and I guess this deer in the headlight look came over my face as I was wondering what they all were. And she asked, well, what do you think? How are they? And without thinking, I said, oh God, they're horrible. She said, well, what do you mean? And I'm going to show you the one that I'm going to use as my example here. I was looking at a poster, and it had up on the poster, misspelled, USDA. Misspelled. How do you misspell USDA? It's USDA. That's it. There's only 4 letters. Okay? And I pointed it out, and she said, well, have you ever done posters yourself? I said, well, yeah, I've had a couple dozen of them accepted for major meetings. And she said, oh, well then could you give students a talk on how to put a poster together? And here I am, whether you like it or not. My name is Richard Patton. I am a faculty member in biology. I teach here at Miami-Dade as a faculty in the subject area of human nutrition. I've been here, what will be if I survive this week, it's questionable, I will have been here 10 years. I spent 6 years before here as the director of community health and minority medicine at Barry University. Are any of you familiar with Barry University? It's down the road. If you're from the Kendall, it's sort of like the equivalent of FIU. It's the closest other university. And speaking of FIU, I spent 22 years as the chair director of the Master Public Health Program. Now I tell you that because in graduate school, you must write abstracts and do posters. It's not like, oh my God, that sounds like fun, maybe I'll do that. It's like, oh, do you want to graduate and get a job? Then you have to do that. And so what I'm going to go through are some of the points that I would have made as important parts of my grad students' abstract and posters. First I'm going to do abstracts. Now, my graduate degrees are from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Hold your applause. You don't have to. Go Tar Heels. Yeah. If you're a basketball fan or just a fan of academia, that's a good school. And my others are from the University of Florida. Go Gators. Okay, I have 4 degrees from the University of Florida. I'm proud of each and every one of them. This happens to be what I used in writing my dissertation at Carolina. Now, abstracts don't change. Do you realize that? When you read an abstract published in 2017, it will read exactly like an abstract written in, oh God, forever ago, 1993. I'm teasing you all because you weren't born then. But they stay the same. And there's one general principle of an abstract. First, it is not your introduction. How many of you did for your poster an introduction? Well, you better raise your hand if you haven't started your poster yet. What do they do? What do your posters do? Like this week? Oh. Well, an intro is pretty much going to be different. It's going to sort of bring up your topic, your question, why you're doing the research you're doing. The abstract will tell about each section. Does that make sense? And your abstract needs to be contained, generally speaking, to the number of words that whoever you're submitting it to tells you to limit it to. 250 to 500 max. For those of you that have a good idea, how many of you do word count when you do a document, like on Word? How much is 500? What would 500 words look like on a sheet of paper? One sheet of paper, single spaced. What would 250 words look like? Either half of a sheet of paper, single spaced, or a full sheet of paper, double spaced. Oh, you do the math, that's wonderful. Okay. Well, those are your general limitations, 250 to 500. And one of the things that I want you to sort of think of with your abstract is, any of you ever, like, into poems? I think that I shall never see. Well, in a poem, the saying is that every word needs to count in telling the story in a poem. In an abstract, every word needs to count. Does that make sense? It's very limited. And you want to say so much. I hope that in your research you learned so much you just can't wait to get up and talk about it. But you don't get to do that in your abstract. Now, it is a self-contained, short and powerful statement that describes a larger work. Basically, though, the whole larger work is in there. Everything from a brief intro to a concise description of your methodology, all the way through to a statement on results and conclusions. An original document rather than an excerpt page, which means you can't just use your intro. Two most important are selection and indexing. How many of you have done a complete research paper?
Right.
How many of you, in doing your research paper, had a lot of references that were just the abstract? You know, yes. Everybody who's done it that's honest will raise their hand, because sometimes the abstract tells you exactly what it is you wanted to know from that research, and poof, you got it. Yes, ma'am?
I just want to, the abstract contains from 250 words to 500?
Yes. And there's different kinds of abstract, and we'll get to that. So there's generally a sort of a short then a long version.
And you mentioned that it describes your whole thing, like all of it in like a one paragraph?
Abstracts allow readers to quickly decide if it's worth reading the long one. Therefore, it contains a little bit about every section of the research outline. Many outline databases use abstracts to interpret larger work. This is an important way for you to study later on. If you're going into the sciences, oh my God, you won't believe all the information available to you, and you do not want to have to sit down and read every research paper with your topic. You want to read the abstract and see if you want to read the rest. Well, when you're writing one, you want to write your abstract so that anybody on that topic can, in fact, decide if they want to read the rest. Okay? Descriptive abstracts, okay, are very short. I said 250. That is going to be there mostly when you're submitting a poster or a paper into a publisher or a poster into a presentation like a conference or convention. They will get longer. This is the one, okay, the descriptive abstract, that is literally the bare minimum, and bless your heart, it will take you a good 7 drafts to get what you want to say to 100 words or less. Okay? 200 plus words are the informative abstracts. They go up from 250 to 500, and this is what most of you will have accessed when you access abstracts for your research. Okay? It is a bit more descriptive. It has a bit more in it, like what the author thinks not only is the conclusion, but can be done with that research. Have you ever seen that where it says things like more research is required? Okay? Why do you think so many abstracts say that? Because generally, no matter what topic you're covering, more research is required. And if nothing else, it keeps that researcher funded and hence employed. Okay? If you say, yeah, and that's about all we need to know about that, it's like, I'm retiring. Okay, now, abstracts include full citations. And then, there's something that some of you may have never read. I'm going to use as an analogy. And so if you have never read this one type of publication, don't feel bad. Do y'all know what a newspaper is? It's what preceded Google News. Okay. Well, there's an invertebrate pyramid structure of news that says basically you start with the most important things that you want to say, and then you expand upon them to more generalized, descriptive, and other stuff. Those of you that read newspapers, has there ever been an article that looked important to you, interesting to you, that you started reading but never got to the bottom? Yeah, that's because that's how they're constructed to read. Does that make sense? You start, this was important, this was important, this was not so important, I don't care anymore, I'm quitting. Well, that's the same thing. Now, down here, clear, concise, and powerful language is the rule. And this is where, when you do an abstract, you never want to do it isolated by yourself. You make somebody else read it. In just a second, when we get to posters, I'll talk about your mom being your validation. Is that scary? Asking your mom to look at something to see if in fact it is suitable to submit like to a conference. Oh my God. Okay, so. Okay. Always parts of the abstract. Why did you do this study? The study you're doing now, why are you doing that? My first wet lab research was on the effects of the xanthine derivatives on the action of insulin. Doesn't that sound scientific, by the way? Wow. Do any of you know what xanthine, methylated xanthine derivatives are? Oh my God, I feel so smart. Do any of you know what caffeine is? Well, yeah, okay, now all of a sudden you got a clue. I had come down with diabetes, I was in grad school, I was drinking 20 cups of coffee a day. It was free, don't look at me like that. When you're in grad school, you'll understand. And I said out loud to somebody, gee, I wonder what all this caffeine is doing to my diabetes. Ta-da! And there was a master's research project. Okay? Why are you doing this study? To see if caffeine improves insulin. Yeah, it does. What are you trying to solve? How do you go about solving the problem? What's that? Your methodologies. And this is, oh my God, so important because it lets me know the validity of your research. And that's why you write this up. But then, what is even more important? Okay, this is the question. This is the answer. Okay, keep that theme in mind because that's why we do research. We have a question. All right. Well, if you have a question, what do you need? Yeah. There, you answered me. Way to go! You see how easy that was? Now, meet the word count limit. Huge deal. When you're submitting abstracts to, it doesn't matter, a publication, a conference, whatever it is that has asked for an abstract. They will tell you the word count limitation. You do not get one word over that. The very first thing they do is count to see if you can in fact follow the simplest of all instructions. It doesn't mean you have to meet that word count. Does that make sense? You can't get to the very last sentence, and in order to try to get to 250 words, you can't say, and this is very, 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 very important. Okay? They don't care about how many variables. They're not Donald Trump.
Sad.
A good imitation though, dude. Now, when you're going through, you do include anything that you think would be valuable for somebody to follow you up with. Include the problem statement. And they will ask you for keywords. How many of you have ever learned a search engine called Google? Oh my God. What does Google also have? Google Scholar. Okay. The same keywords that you might use to get somewhere from Google apply to Google Scholar, only now they're scholarly words. You need to provide those words that will pull up your research. So in mine, we didn't have Google. We didn't have computers, so I'm old. But for mine, it would have been caffeine, insulin, diabetes. Does that make sense? And you would have gotten to my research publication. And then revise, revise, revise. Okay, real quick, going back, by the way, when I was at Carolina, it was 1979 through 1981. James Worthy, Sam Perkins years. It's a basketball reference. Michael Jordan was coming in. Okay, but to finish up my dissertation, I found the Writing Center, and they were the most valuable thing. Who's here from the Writing Center? There you are. See that young lady in the back? Okay. Find the Writing Center. They are valuable resources to help you get through this and will make sense of whatever you're doing in the appropriate form. The young lady who, well, helped me, I swear I would have married her if she wasn't a grandmother with children and a husband. But nevertheless, she was that helpful. Now, abstracts, short, descriptive, informative, take a long time to mostly narrow down. Very important with abstract is the delete function on your computer. Totally different. Our poster presentations. This is one of the main forms of communicating your research results to other professionals. Okay? Now, it is the last of the steps in the process of research. It is the paperwork of it all. Does that make sense? You've done all the research, you analyzed the finding, you're so darn excited about what was the outcome. It doesn't mean anything till you finish telling people about it, the paperwork. Have you all gone to the bathroom before? Is there paperwork involved with finishing the process? Is it important? Yeah. If you didn't know that, write it down. Oh God, that's important. I need to know that. So, this is what we're doing. We're just drawing and disseminating the conclusions to spread them out among our professional peers. Now, the research is the question. Disseminating the information and drawing conclusion is providing the answer to the question. And I'm going to tell you the biggest mistake of most posters is they describe well. Things like the intro. Why are we doing this? Well, it's really important to do this is why. And this is what we did. Oh my God, and we used this equipment and this. And these were the wrong. And then all of a sudden, you realize they had a research question, but they didn't have an answer. Well, you had told me nothing except the problem. I don't want to know the problem. I want to know the answer. Does that make sense as well? Mm-hmm. And by the way, when you're reading research, whether it's an abstract or the whole article, look for the question and then make sure before you are finished you have found the answer. Question. forever. Do wild bears remove residual waste material from their diet while in the forage? I mean, the way it's usually stated is do bear shit in the woods. What's the answer? Well, yeah, that's the answer that we've been looking for. And by the way, this is the presentation of your answer when you finally get to your poster. That's the importance. Now, disseminating the conclusion, there are written articles, including your abstract, but your abstract goes, by the way, with these as well. Your abstract, obviously, is what allows a publisher to know if they want to present your paper. In academia, it's called publish or perish. If you don't do your research and you don't get published on that research, you're no longer in academia. Okay? Now, the next is oral presentations. Don't know why, but I was invited to over about 160 scientific oral presentations. Because I use silly slides, dear. That's the only reason. They wanted to see what I would do next. And last but not least are called the poster presentations. Every scientific conference will have poster presentations. And it is the way to let lots of information out in very small space and or time commitment. So if you're at, what's the biggest conference center you can think of around Florida? There's a huge Orlando Conference Center. I know we've had easily up to 50,000 people there. If you want to attract the most audience for your information, poster presentations is how to do it, because you literally lined them up on two sides of an aisleway for many aisleways and let people walk up and down. That's the good news. What's the bad news for you? The competition. Okay, think about this. You've been sitting in boring oral presentations all day. I know I was given those presentations. And now you're looking at posters. You're already in a fog. You're already tired. You're kind of walking like, God, I wish happy hour would start. Back and forth on two sides. What's going to draw your attention? Well, that's the key to a poster. Okay? These are some of my posters. Again, some of them, this one happened to win an award for Best Designed Poster in a particular public health meeting. They are all kinds of different meetings. Some are educational conference, some are annual. It doesn't matter. Once you are into a professional groove, you get to submit. Now, why is my name first on some and second on some?
Because you're the presenter on the other.
One is because I was the main researcher and presenter, and if it's not there, it's because that was my student. And to get that poster produced, submitted, and accepted, she had to have my help, and so my name got to go on it. Isn't that cool? Believe me, some of these are harder to do than the ones you do yourself, so it's just depending on the student. These are some of the oral presentations. It is a way to get information out. So whether I'm talking to the National Strength and Conditioning Association, or I'm talking to a diabetes group, these are our outlets. Now, very importantly, on the poster, and you're thinking, oh my God, he finally got there. I'll get there and through it, I promise. I'll talk faster as time goes on. A poster is a graphical or visual-based approach to presenting research. This is the most important statement for today on posters. Okay? You want somebody looking at your poster and seeing the picture of what you wanted them to see immediately without having to read. How many of you are lazy? Okay. Yeah, some of you are just too lazy to raise your hands. You know you are, but it was like, ah, shit, that's two hands. Well, It doesn't get any better when you get older. You're just better at hiding it. And that's why visual and graphics turn out to be so darn important in the presentation of what you want to share with people. A picture says 1,000 words. And so, give them a picture and save 1,000 words. Okay? Now, keep you quick on this. Fluoridation growth by population. Okay? I could have given you all of these numbers in table form. I could have even written paragraphs stating what was going on with the population versus the increased fluoridation of the water supply over time. Neither one of which you would have looked at. But as soon as this comes up, if you're the least bit interested in fluoridated water, some of you could be for it. Any of you thinking about dentistry? Well, this is why dentists do more orthodontic work than filling in dental caries. We don't have as many. Healthier mothers and babies. I took these right off posters, by the way. What's happened to the health of mothers over time? Well, damn. We're down here to almost a 0 mortality rate. That's all I want you to know. And infant mortality rate has gone in 100 years from 100 babies dying in a year of every 1,000 born to about, and that is actually about 7. What's happened to infant mortality over 100 years? Greatly decreased. And yet, our 7, if I had wanted to, I could have put up here the infant mortality rate of Japan or Sweden, and theirs is down half of ours. Okay? That would have been another research, comparing the reduction of infant mortality from our country to another. Okay? Quick and easy to see what's going on here. Healthcare spending worldwide, 2010. So, I must have done the first one of these in 2010. Okay? Let me ask you this question. Things you might want to know. How many of you ever heard of the healthcare debates going on in the United States of America as we speak? Have any of you heard of Obamacare? Raise your hand. Have any of you heard of getting rid of Obamacare? Raise your hand. Have any of you heard of the Republican health care plan? Of course not. They don't have one. Now, yeah, I'm a public health person. Figure I'm a Democrat. Now, this is a percent of gross domestic product, and at present, the United States spends a little over $1,000 per person per year on health care. How many of you have had $1,000 spent on you this year? How many of you had, bypass surgery, a kidney replacement? How many of you had? You're good. Have you had anything spent on you? Some of you, yes, you're the outlier in this group. Okay? Are we the healthiest population? Nope. Oh, we're not even close. We're like 32 in the developed countries. And to let you know how bad things are in the United States. Okay? We spent, $9,000 per person per year, not 1,000, but 9,000. We're number 32. Cuba spends $400 per person on health. Have any of you heard of Cuba? Little country, very close to us. They're 30-30. We spend over $9,000 more per person per year than Cuba, and we're kicking their ass for one country healthier. Well, this gives you a good idea of what is happening. And down here, by the way, I'll sort of pick Sweden and Japan are considered the 2 healthiest countries in the world. But if we're just looking at what it costs to be healthy, then it's a whole lot less than we're spending. And again, for those of you that haven't taken nutrition, I can tell you about studies in nutrition indicating what might be problems with the American diet. Is it quick and easy to see? What do you need to eat more of? You've been in my lecture, sir. What do you need to eat more of? Fruits and vegetables. And if, in visualization, and this is important, if I were presenting, and this were my bar graph studying the food intake of the American population, and this was part of the finding, you're much lower, by the way, in fruits than you are in vegetables. Would any of you have believed that? How many of you really like fruit? Oh my God, okay, keep your hand up. Keep your hand up. You like fruit. How many of you particularly like bananas? Bananas are the #1 fruit eaten in America. Why? They have appeal. Yeah, but that's important. If I put a slide like this as my findings in the middle of my research, and you walk by and you look at this and you just can't believe that. I can't believe fruits are less eaten than vegetables. What does it make you want to do? Yes, you want to stop and ask, I don't get this. Why are fruits less consumed than vegetables? Everybody likes them, or they're sweet, they're sugar. There's an answer. Well, one, they're expensive, so can vegetables be. Two, they ripen faster than vegetables, so that they are more perishable. But that's only part of the answer. There's one vegetable that skews the finding. And once I have you over asking me questions, I get to talk to you about my research. And this is way cool. If I said, no, this is due mostly to one vegetable, now I have you. You're interested in my research. Does that make sense? That's the purpose of being at a poster session. Now, what is the one vegetable that we eat so much of that it skews our statistics? Okay. No, lettuce. Okay. Do you know what honeymoon salad is? Lettuce alone. You're on your honeymoon. No. I love her. She just got it. Oh my God, that was a joke. Yes, dear, that was a joke. I'm sorry. I'll let you know when the joke's coming. What's the vegetable that skews everything? I'll give you a hint. Ready? Ready? Have you ever heard this term before in your life, dear? And would you like fries with that? Potatoes. In particular, French fries. And so now I can tell you something about the research finding that is part of the finding, but I would never have had the chance to get to you otherwise. Okay? This is energy expense composition. This is a wonderful way to present, because if I tried to present this to you in numbers and descriptions, it just would take too long, etc. So I put energy expenditures, wait, you'll love this one, in a pie graph. Thank you, dear, for getting that. Pie graph, apple pie, come on, go with me. Okay, this is showing something in research graphically that would be near impossible to tell you in words. And it is the results of mortality based on body weight, underweight versus overweight. And again, this becomes kind of interesting because most people would immediately presume, oh my God, more overweight, the bigger risk. And that's not true until we get to the very high amounts of overweight. Does this amaze any of you? That being underweight is so much more linked to mortality? Back to pulling you into my research so I can tell you something I want you to know about this. Yes, being underweight is in fact meaning you have less ability to survive illnesses, infections. Survival becomes a little bit less down here. But this is also containing what are called confounders. Confounders in research are things that are part of what you're studying. It's just not what you studied, but yet they have influence. So underweight increases risk of mortality. Well, if you had pancreatic cancer, what's the survival rate? Really low, really low. What happens in the year that it takes you to succumb to pancreatic cancer? You lose weight. When you pass away, are you underweight? So the statistics shows underweight leading to mortality. No, it doesn't. Pancreatic cancer leads to mortality. It just causes overweight. Underweight, I'm sorry. I spend way more time over in this side. Okay. Again, these are just things that you can put up visually. If you're interested in the least bit in any of the subject matters, you get an immediate sort of message. It doesn't tell you everything, but that's okay. You as a presenter of a poster don't want it telling everything. You want it telling it enough to get them interested to come over to it. Use a poster as a means of generating active discussions of the research. Okay. How many of you just like standing alone in a crowd and not speaking to anybody? I know you won't raise your hand, you're way too shy. But imagine you've done 2 years worth of research. You finally got your conclusions, results. You have a poster up at a scientific conference, and then it sounds exciting, and then you're standing here watching everybody walk by. Pretty soon you start checking. Maybe it's me. Well, this becomes the big deal. You want people to come over and talk to you, and that's the sign of a good poster. It attracts the most attention. Limit the text to about 1/4 of the poster space. This is a general rule of thumb, but a pretty important one. You are not trying to tell them something. You are trying to show them something. Okay? Now, there are usually specifications for a poster. And so the first thing I'm always going to tell you is check with whatever agency you are preparing that poster for their specifications. Those of you doing STEM, we have specifications for our posters on size, etc. And so find out what that is. The generalization is first and foremost, it's always landscape. Therefore, you're talking about sort of getting that 48, what is 48 inches? Divide by 12, 4 feet. And 36 inches, divide by 12, 3 feet. 4 feet by 3 feet. Okay? And by the way, when you buy posters, you'll see that many of them are just simply in as dynamics. And do not fill in the entire work area. The border should be oriented in landscapes. I'm going to show you this in just a second. And a banner displaying your poster title, your name, and the name of the institution. And when I say name, I mean everybody whose name is going on that poster. Okay? Those of you, how many of you that are doing some form of research have a mentoring professor?
They all have.
It was kind of rhetorical. I was just waiting to see who didn't raise their hand. Okay. Would that professor's name go on your poster?
Yes.
Oh, you think? Okay. If your mentoring professor says, no, don't put my name on that. You've got a lot more to worry about than just that particular research. Okay? Always in the landscape, and then some coloring things to come about. This is a general recommendation. No matter what template that you find for poster presentations, it will pretty much dictate these font sizes. Never less than 18 point, by the way. And 85 point, my goodness, you can see this from outer space. So this is way big enough for them to know what your research topic was, at least by title. Have most of you been also instructed, do most of you already have your title? Yes, because it generally, the title is given as part of the actual research. Now, design and layout, student name, school name. And for you all, if there is a agency backing your research, USDA, okay? I'm a USDA kind of guy. I'm a nutritionist, I'm public health. USDA and I have been one with each other. Okay? You would always put that up. If there is an agreement between our institution, Miami-Dade College, and FIU. Any of you working with a professor from Florida International?
It's UF and St. Thomas.
Go Gators. Oh, great. And St. Thomas, which is,
St. Thomas and UF, they
okay. Their logos go up top as well. Okay? See, sir, I was at FIU for 22 years. And then I left. And it was only FU. You'll get that later. This is what goes into your poster. Okay. This is non-negotiable. Yes, ma'am?
How can I know where they got the specifications for my young spark?
Okay. Again, sometimes the Spark will tell you theirs, or if you are submitting for a particular poster presentation, they will tell you. If not, use the ones I provided. These are the standards. That's a great question. If you don't have recommendations, go back to the standards. Okay. Now, the poster must follow the following format. And there will be some admits to this, but these must all be there. What do you not see up there right away? Okay, that's what you can add. You don't see abstract. Okay? If your major professor or the agency you're presenting to tell you to include an abstract on your poster, then all means do it. But generally speaking, what would happen is you would take your poster and then you would take your abstract to hand out to somebody. So if they were interested in your research and they came over and asked questions, you could say, here on this sheet of paper is my abstract. Also, contact information for me if you would like to contact me for more questions and answers. Does that, you kind of get, and that's the extra part. Yes, ma'am.
The presentation of the poster, we take a copy of our abstract?
Yes, ma'am. I'm telling you that not everybody will, but you will, because if somebody is interested enough to come over and start chatting with you about your research, you might want to be able to provide them with much more information. And the abstract will do that. Yes. Now, design and layout. Make it obvious how to progress and view the poster. The poster should read, obviously, from left to right. My bride, bless her heart, I am married to a wonderful woman from Japan. We've been happily married 18 years. Out of 22, that's not bad. In Japanese literature, they start at the back of the book and read the other direction. I never know if she's starting a book or finishing a book. But the pages are turning wrong, I know that. But in our particular language, it's always left to right, top to bottom, and in particular, you'll see in just a second, it starts at the left, top to bottom, and then comes around. Now, this is the general spacing of a poster 101. Every template you see will have something similar to this. Now, I put in the graphics just because I want you to know that's where the results go in graphic form. Pictures. charts. Even if you must resort to a table, keep the table simplified, easy to read, and augmented, if you can, with something else. Okay? First is your introduction, and then obviously methodology. Results come, and then discussion, implication, references. Here's the big deal. This space in between. It's called white space. Do not think you must leave it white. Okay? It's like white noise. Have you ever heard that term? White noise is when I'm teaching a class in nutrition and all of my students are chatting among themselves. Yeah, he's crazy, I know. I go, word, I can't believe we come to this class. Okay. Well, this is the white space. Now, if you're using it as white space, then make sure there is background coloring in other spaces. And I'll get to this in a second. But this is one of the ways you allow a poster to flow. One is by using arrows. Swear to God, some people can't figure out either how to construct a poster or second, how to read a poster. So you start at the intro and then down you go to methodology. Over to results. This is the main part of your poster. This is why you did this for that, right? Research is to get results. Well, what were your results? The results, by the way, are generally the answer to the question you had in your introduction. And then you can discuss it and what it means, the implications and summaries, and never forget your references. They are required on your poster as well.
What if,
Yes, ma'am.
what if like on our reference is literally our mentor? Like he was the one that taught us everything.
Then you put down here where it says reference, this most wonderful professor in the world. You use his name as you would, and then you can say all conversations, or you can say whatever you want. But if you're using that one person as the hallmark of your knowledge to get through this, they are in fact your reference. In a second, they're going to be your acknowledgement as well. And you can do that in addition. Okay? Now, I do want you to get a feel for the coloring. Okay? Which looks better? All white, white background, or white boxes? Okay. Why? Yes, it just makes this background coloring then sort of just what it is, background, and it makes the white boxes stand out. Okay? So this is a very traditional formatting for a poster. I'll show you more as we go through. It doesn't have to be squares. Depending on what you are doing, you can use a variety of different shapes. You can use a variety of coloring. You just can't use a lot of coloring. I mean, this is not like Crayola, unless you're doing research for Crayola, in which case use every damn color they have. But, okay, here's the heading. That's your title, names. On this one, I actually said title in large 85-point font. And then, only because of this template's unique design with this bar, you could put here your name, your professor's name, your institution, your funding source. Oh dear God, don't ever forget to put your funding source. Why? Yeah, they funded you. You may want to call upon them again. Okay? So it does become an important one. Again, I did a lot with USDA because, well, I feel, but that's important. Now, poster title goes here, combining strictly with the essential numbers of words, too much, everything here, and then off you go. This is the template that we have used for STEM for some time. And so you would then sort of follow along in these different categories Down here it said aim. You don't always have this, but you always have methodology. These boxes represent graphs, charts, pictures, etc. And one of the things somebody mentioned that lo and behold becomes very important is down here where it says acknowledgments. Okay? You get to decide what you're going to put in there. But keep in mind, somebody helped you. And so acknowledging them isn't a bad idea in terms of just grace. Now, this is the general template we've always used for STEM. Is this better? Okay. Was it that hard to do? No. You just simply color in the background color. The only one difference between this and this is a slight increase in printing cost for this. Okay. And if your research money is covering it, what do you care? Okay. Word process all letters. And I'm going to show you some bad ones in just a second, so please forgive me, but nothing is more distracting than a professional presentation that is got misspelled words in it, especially if they're scientific words. Oh my God. Like you couldn't figure out how to spell gluconeogenesis, and it's the hallmark of your research. You're studying vitamin A and you cannot spell xerophthalmia. Okay, that's the disease you get if you're deficient in vitamin A. But if you don't spell it correctly, would somebody like me notice that? Yo, got it, dude. I'm going to come up and say, yeah, that's spelled wrong. I'm smarter than you are. Okay. Text should be readable from 5 feet. Remember I said posters will be on two sides of an aisle. They will be at least that, and so people will be walking up and down. Hence, the poster over here may easily be 5 feet away from me. I have to be able to read it. Okay. Maybe not everything, but at least the title, etc. Okay. Use a minimum font of 18-point Bureau zip, never lower than that. Do you all know what 18-point font is? You've used it? Like when you have a 10-page paper due and it's the night before, so you crank the font up to 18-point? Come on, I'm a professor. You know I've had that done to me. It's like, do they think I'm that stupid? And then you have to answer that yourself. Yeah, I guess they do think I'm that stupid. They did it. Visual, present numerical data in form of graphs. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. All of the hard stuff that you want to convey to somebody at that presentation, you can say when they come to talk to you. Okay? You can show them how many big words you know and how smart you are, but not in the poster. Leave out or remove any unnecessary details. And I'm going to tell you right now, and I'll use it again in just a way. The best validation for if something is unneeded is to ask your mother, because she will not hold back. You know your mother. Mom, does this look too wordy? Is there anything? Yeah, that's a mess. Like your room when you were a teenager. Okay. Well, delete is an important one. Make sure any visual can stand alone, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Now, back to the color and the background. Use color to enhance comprehensive, not just to decorate the poster. Remember that one you liked better where the blue popped out with the blue boxes popped out with the white? That is enhancing the presentation. Drive safe. We love when students walk out of our classrooms. Do not think leaving ever bothers us as professors. We don't take it personally. But if it's our classroom, we love the concept called grade distribution. Somebody got that one. Wait, I think he was my grade distribution. Okay. Introduce it, basically keep it, on the text part of it, this is where delete becomes so important. Okay. This is what a poster could look like. Even without knowing what the words are right now, doesn't matter. if you saw that, you may not find it the most attractive darn thing in the world. God only knows what you find attractive. I've seen some of the people you date. But it at least lets you know if, by the title and the result pictures, if you want to get closer to see what in fact was being studied and what the result was. It's not going to push you away. Okay, first thing is don't let it like nauseate your customers, and then second, hopefully it will get better. Now, miscellaneous suggestion. Simply quick, read that while I stand here. How many of you have quit reading already? Yeah, he's still seeing if he's getting lucky tonight. Are you kidding? Ah, shit, okay. No, it's just too much. But you've been through research, and you want to say as much as you can because, oh my God, you know so much now about that one subject, that it is hard to sort of break it down to a more simpler form. This is, by the way, the same thing I had here, but simplified. Is it better? Is it still a lot to read? Well, how about now? Is it getting closer to something you might actually look at? It is exactly the same message as the previous two slides. Okay? And, by the way, you can use, especially in conclusion, these sort of points. Not numbers, but actually indicators. Keep it simple. It is the biggest mistake people make. You see, dear, it said, squeeze from the bottom. It meant the toothpaste, not his bottom. Keep it simple. Make aesthetically pleasing. Use the white space, and now off we go. Background. Avoid background graphics that make the text difficult to read. Could any of you read that but me? No, the background graphics were too difficult. By the way, this is our North Campus. For those of you that go here, this is our lake. For those of you that don't go here, we have on our campus a perfect rectangle lake. What a coincidence of nature. When I tell students they can come see me, where's your office? I say it's on the other side. It's over on the other side of the lake. You get this look like, we have a freaking lake somewhere? Science. Make it aesthetic pleasing. Use figures, diagram, plenty of white space. By the way, I'm moving in. I repeated that on purpose so you could see it. Color is encouraged, but limit the number of colors. Generally speaking, on a poster, use a light-colored background and dark ink. And every once in a while in presentations, in oral presentations, you'll see somebody use like a dark blue or even black background with white lettering. Do you know why? Why would someone like me do that? Because we're old. And before we had PowerPoint, we had something called slides. Okay, gather around, kids. Let me tell you about the old days. A slide was literally something that slid into a rack, and then there was a slide projector that presented it. They were always navy blue with white lettering. And so, for nostalgia purposes, sometimes we'll do that. You're not nostalgic, you're young. Do you see the difference? The dark in of itself is soothing and comforting, and if you want people to go to sleep, use the dark. Back row, if you want, never mind, you're asleep. Well, also, colors encouraged, but limit the number of colors. Is this a little annoying after a while?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and like I said, unless it's Crayola, nobody wants to read that. Now, this is why. Color increases attention by 60%, and it increases retention by 120%. So color is a big deal as long as you use it correctly. Do not use all caps except for headings. Limit the number of fonts and font sizes. Equally as annoying, isn't it? Okay? Should be able to read at least 5 feet distant, that's 18. Size does count. This is not your sex life, this is poster presentation. And certain fonts are obviously easier to read. Use the traditional, use Roman, yeah, you know the serif fonts, so they're the ones you've been using forever. Now, we're going to look at a few things that some of your predecessors in earlier classes have done wrong. Okay. This is the one. Okay. Count the ways. I've gotten rid of the student name, introduction, and then purpose and methods. Here is the title for whatever it was. We have no idea. It sort of sounds like, I don't know, it sounds like summer camp. It sounds like an illicit affair, something that we should not be reading about on a poster. Miami-Dade College, F-Cage, and the USAD. The USDA, spelled incorrectly. Never in my life have I seen something with only 4 letters spelled incorrectly. Okay. But this young lady managed to do it. Oops, at least I've narrowed it down to gender. Now, take a look at the flow. Instead of flowing downward with the title heading up here, it's sort of good luck trying to figure out what to read next. And then somewhere there are results. We're not really sure where the results are, but the acknowledgement is over here. At least you got USDA spelled right. Okay? Now, let's clean it up a little. Using, first and foremost, her, sort of everything, but at least in a better template. Okay. Now, off we go. Now we're using more appropriate template. Okay, is there a big difference between this poster and this poster? Now, I didn't know everything to help her out. Okay? At least I got Frank's names correct by putting in a space. Okay, and then we had who were sort of sponsoring this. Intro, purpose, and methods. These pictures are in fact the results. She just didn't put anything up there to let you know what these were. This is a microscope. Okay, I figured that out. This is something. I have no idea what it is. Okay? But every graph, every picture, every visual needs an independent label on it. Number 3 is an insect, and number 4 just another insect. I have no idea. Okay, but at least it gives you an idea what could have been done to make it a bit more acceptable. Here's one. Sorry, for those of you from Kendall, I am not picking on Kendall, but it did come from Kendall. No. I just got to ask, can any of you read anything up here?
No.
Other than MDC Campbell Campus, can you read the title? This was the poster submitted, and I still can't tell you what it is this is a poster of. Okay, now I can. Back to the lighter background with black lettering. Now, I actually left the wording the same, but respaced it. Intro, purpose and method, results, and I have to tell you, you've got your chem book, your calculus book. What is this? What's the answer?
0.
0. Okay. Thank you for picking up on that. All this research for nothing. You do wonder. And then, of course, at least, I mean, there's so much that was right with this poster, you couldn't see it. Here are the logos of certain of what was needed to be displayed. Here was, of course, the heading, and then on it went, and there was then some good things that could have sort of come out about this. This is a poster. Is that an awful lot? At least space it out, okay? This was the first presentation. You got all this empty space. Why? Make things bigger. At least old people could read it. Okay? And again, the same flow, and that's sort of the importance of it all. Please forgive me on Homestead campus. I actually know some of these people. But nevertheless, does that poster look all white with you? Have we never heard? I mean, black and white, bless your heart. Think out of the box, add blue. Okay? Do something that can at least start making things a little bit more distinguishable. One of the absolutely best things of these is that the results are all in graphic form. We may not know what this is, but if you were studying the trans 3,4,5, trimethyl, etc., I'm a chem major and I can't say some of these words, dude. Okay. Add a little color to the boxes that you want to point out. Okay. Students from the U.S. Fund, granted, this is the traditional presentation you'll have with different backgrounds. If at first you do not succeed on your poster, skydiving's not for you. This is, by the way, where you bring your mother into it. If you ask your mom, I'm not picking, if you ask your mom how she likes that, think of your mom. She's brutal. She's your mom. She loves you to death. As long as you don't go out of city for college or leave your room a mess. Okay? You asked your mom if she could understand the flow of that. What would your mom be thinking? The hell is that? Okay? Wait, if you asked your mom, wait, I'll get to it. If you ask your mom how this one looks, what would your mom tell you? Back to the drawing board. Okay. By the way, it's not a bad idea to ask your mom to read what's through here. She may not understand the scientific. She may even have English as a second language. But if she can read it with some understanding, you've done a good job. Okay? You're sort of, why am I using your mom? She's not in your field. She's not going to classes with you. That her understanding needs to be there so you know you have communicated well in general. The other is this, I'm telling you, you all know it. Moms can be brutal. Any questions? Yes, ma'am. Sam?
We'll get back to them.
Okay. The answer is I am willing to do that. And I know it has been done before. So that I'm going to say yes and then make other people responsible for having it happen. Okay.
Everything is kind of in this already.
Okay. And I do think this, Carol, do you all know what's Carolyn's last name?
Dr. Margaret.
Dr. Margaret. I'm sorry, I only know her first name. I know she has sent this out before, so she may have simply written all this up in a Word doc.
Yeah.
Okay. So the answer is yes. And if you want specifically, email me. I'm rpatton@mdc.edu. R, like in you're a pirate and you want to say hello. R. Patton. Okay, the other thing that I have always offered you all is this. The two reasons that I told you about some of my history, especially in poster presentation. One is because I'm old and I don't get a chance to brag anymore, so I had to put that up there. But second is if, in fact, you put a poster together on a template and you want somebody to review it for you, I'm glad to do that. Okay?
I have, reason why we're not sending it right now, because it's not fair for you guys to be here and for other students not to be here. And we send it out to you guys and you give it to that person.
So those people who left, cross them off the list.
Okay, so we cannot send it out right now.
O-N. At mdc.edu. So if you finish your poster and you just want comments, you're more than welcome to send it to me. I'd rather send it to it and critique it than have you put something up like with USDA spelled incorrect. That's it? Yes, ma'am.
I have two actually. My first question is the logos. Does the School of Science put them on, or we have to put the logo on them?
The School of Science, I believe, has the appropriate logo from who they're working with, but you're going to have to place it. Now, are these some of our posters?
Yes.
Good on- okay. These are our good ones.
We didn't look at them, we just grabbed them.
If you're not putting your names on it, sorry.
Yeah.
Nothing. Let me in. Good. Continue.